California really a full practice authority state? Well, there's a lot of conflicting information out there, and I know if you're anything like me, you want to know, what is the truth? Do we have full practice authority or not? Join me as I dive deep into the California Full Practice Allegedly Authority Law, SB 890. Welcome to my channel. It's your girl, Dr. Kiiyonna Jones, aka Sidepreneur Nurse, and I am the owner and founder of Luxe Beauty and Wellness Boutique and Luxe Beauty Academy. And this page is dedicated to helping nurses, nurse practitioners, nurse entrepreneurs, current and aspiring, get to the bag. I am a huge proponent of us leveraging our nursing license to create the life that we deserve. So today's topic is actually about this new California law that people are saying it's full practice authority. But the real question is it full practice authority or isn't it? And so today I'm going to cover 5 things I want to make sure that you know if you're in the state of California, or even if you're in another state that may be leaning towards a full practice authority state. Here are some things you want to look out for. So the first thing is I want people to understand and know the difference in the terminology. So there is this whole myth that California is about to be or is a full practice authority state as of January 1st, 2023. And I want to correct that myth right now. We are not a full practice authority state. We are a transition to practice state. And there is a difference. I want you to know that a full practice authority state says that once you meet a criteria, you are able to practice independently to the fullest extent of your training. And we would love that for us as nurse practitioners, but that's not where we're at in the state of California. In fact, we are, as of January 1st, 2023, we are a transition to practice state, which means that there are certain levels that must be met before we can have more autonomy. And there are levels to the autonomy as a nurse practitioner. About 20,000 nurse practitioners as of January the 1st, 2023 were eligible to apply for the transition to practice. I want you to know that we only have 50,000 nurse practitioners who in the state of California as a whole. So that doesn't mean that 20,000 of the nurse practitioners are actually going to apply, but 20,000 of them are actually eligible to apply for the transition to practice. So what that looks like is they have to have a national certification. That's one requirement. The next thing that they have to do is they have to have worked up under a supervising physician for at least 4,600 hours. So 4,600 hours, which is equivalent to about 3 years, they had to have been working under their own, under the supervision of a medical director. And then the third thing is that even though they can apply and they can have non-standing orders in which they can operate under, they still have to be in a unit, a space, a dwelling where there are other medical doctors in case there is an emergency that happens. So in order to apply for the transition to practice, you have to go through the Board of Registered Nursing in the state of California. They actually have a specific application for you to apply for the full practice authority. And then you have to submit, of course, all the supplementing documents to support that you actually have met the criteria. Now, once you have submitted that, and you have met all the criteria, then you can work in a space where there are other medical doctors. But you cannot just go out and start a business on your own. That's the first thing, number 1. So number 2, what I want you guys to know is, even in those situations where, let's say, you have met all the requirements and you're able to practice in a place where, in a dwelling or medical office, medical building, where there are other medical providers like doctors, you still have to wait 3 years after January 1st, 2023. Everybody. So essentially what they have done is they have, okay, here's a group that's going to be able to practice more autonomously, but they have to still meet this criteria, and they have to be in a dwelling or in a medical office or building where there's other doctors, but they still have to do that for 3 years. So essentially, there'll be two categories. There will be those who are nurse practitioners who are still practicing understanding orders because they did not meet the criteria as of January 1st. And then there'll be a second group, those who actually have met the criteria, they have applied, they're able to practice without standing orders, but they still have to be under the dwelling or in a medical office or medical building where there's other medical providers. Period. So there is nobody as of January 1st, 2023, who will be able to practice fully independent in their own building, brick and mortar, standalone, and run their practice. There's no one. And I want to make sure you know and understand that. The third thing is when you, especially because we have doctoral prepared nurse practitioners, either they're DNP, they may be PhD, be very clear on your role as a nurse practitioner and not get any confusion of just going by doctor. I just want you guys to know it is a violation of the business code and safety for the state of California if you misrepresent yourself as a doctor without clarifying and clearly stating that you are a doctoral prepared nurse. This was a big deal here recently. I want to say about a month ago, there was a doctor who was a doctorally prepared nurse practitioner. She was a DNP, and she went by the first is doctor and then her first name. And so what happened with her is the district attorney office came after her because she did not clearly state that she was a nurse. In the state of California, this is a full practice. This is a corporate practice of medicine state. And so what that means is nobody is allowed, especially in a healthcare setting, is allowed to refer to themselves as doctor without clearly stating the type of doctor you are, except medical doctors. I'm going to say that again. In the state of California, we are a corporate practice of medicine state. So there is no one who is a doctoral prepared whatever who can use the term doctor in their last name without clearly specifying what their specialty is. Of course, we have plenty of PhD prepared doctors in every discipline on the college campus. And oftentimes they go by doctor such and such. But if you think about it, in the academic setting, that is okay because it's in an academic setting. But the reason for this law is to protect the public. And so generally speaking, a lay person, if they are in a clinic and you have on a lab coat and you go by, and I'll use myself, you go by Dr. Jones, and I don't have it clearly stated Dr. Jones FNP or Dr. Jones nurse practitioner, it would be safe to assume that the public would think that I am a physician or a medical doctor and not a nurse practitioner. So you have to make sure that you clearly state that, or you will find yourself getting in trouble. In that situation that I just mentioned with that DNP nurse practitioner, she actually got fined heavily and had to pay some other penalties because of that. None of her flyers or any of her advertisement, it did not clearly state that she was a nurse practitioner, a doctoral prepared nurse practitioner. In addition to that, they interviewed some of her clients who said, or her patients at her wellness clinic, and the patient said, I thought she was a doctor. So that further validated their case against her, and that's why they won. So it is my recommendation that you be very careful to make sure that you are clearly differentiating yourself if you are a doctoral prepared nurse and you choose to use the word, doctor in front of your last name, that you clearly specify the practice that you're, certification or that you're a nurse practitioner. Make sure you do that if it's not a medical doctor, okay? The next thing, you guys, is I want you to make sure that you clearly understand and abide by, as far as this law, make sure that you clearly understand and abide by these state laws that are still very much so ever changing, and that you need to be constantly on the Board of Registered Nursing website so you can see if there's any updates. Because what is happening right now is something that a lot of doctors were not happy with us. And so this is why it's even more important that we are abiding by and following the rules, because over these 3 years, there could be a lot of changes as it pertains to this transition to practice law. If we are in violation, if they find out that potentially patients are being confused or being compromised, they're going to come after us and potentially make some changes in this law. So I want you guys to be very astute and be aware of what's going on. I get a lot of questions from nurses who are thinking about becoming nurse practitioners because of this transition to practice law. And the main thing for you to know right now is where we stand with it is taking 6 years after you graduate. That's given that you find a position where you can have a medical director supervise you or a collaborating physician supervise you for 3 years, and then you still have another 3 years to go where you're transitioning. So I want you guys, if you decide to do this, understand this is gonna be a 6-year process. And that is if you do it straight out of nurse practitioner school, which most of you will probably work in primary care or some level for at least a year or two after you graduate. The next thing and the final thing I want you guys to know is that just because this whole transition to practice law is not with the idea or with the intention to giving us as nurse practitioners the ability to start businesses. They're not doing that for us. The reason that we are being granted this is because of primary care and the need to fill the hole and the gap for our community, the public, not getting access to primary care services. The evidence suggests and supports the need for nurse practitioners to fill these holes because there just aren't enough medical doctors who are graduating from medical school and becoming primary care physician or internal medicine doctors. So because of that, nurse practitioners are the ones to be able to fill that hole, and that's why we're being granted more autonomy. But with that being said, and of course I come from the place of aesthetics, being an aesthetic business owner, I want you to know that there may be some changes in the future that limits us to being able to go in these other subspecialties as autonomous practitioners. So let's say that given you've already met the criteria for 3 years as under a supervising physician, and then you go that other 3 years under which you are basically in the same dwelling as a medical doctor for 3 years. And then you're ready to go off and be on your own, only to find out that you can't do that if you're in a specialty like aesthetics. That is very likely. So my suggestion is for those who may be interested in going into a specialty, whether it's aesthetics, whether it's, I don't know, women health, or any other specialty, make sure you continue to follow this closely and do your research. Because what you don't want to do is have all these plans and assume that you're going to be able to practice independently after you meet this criteria, only to find out that it's only for primary care. So I hope that I have given you so much value when it comes to this California SB 890 law, how you're gonna navigate this. My goal is to make sure that you have the education that you need so that you can make informed decisions. I know that we are so confused because there is so much information out there and there are so many different people saying different things. Just know that my source for all of this information comes directly from the Board of Registered Nursing or the business and safety codes. I've read them myself. I do a lot of research in this because this is my area. So I just want you to know that they do come from a reliable source, but you can also look them up yourself. In fact, I strongly recommend that you do. Again, you guys, I am Dr. Kiiyonna Jones. I help nurses, nurse practitioners, other healthcare professionals leverage their license and monetize them to create the life that they deserve. If you have any questions, again, make sure you comment them below or anything that you want to know more about. I am very knowledgeable in the space of aesthetics and then also in nurse entrepreneurship, which I'm also very, very, very dedicated to. So thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll see you soon.